like to be able to trust the FDA because, after all, they regulate the pharmaceutical drugs that we take. However, they're allowing some of the advisors on their expert panels to have conflicts of interest.
Indeed.
And it seems like they're leaning toward even making those rules more lax as far as a conflict of interest.
It's a silly thing if your purpose is to protect the public, to loosen up the laws that make them regulate it responsibly.
Well, that sounds like a conflict of interest right there.
Well, it is. The whole conflict of interest that they're talking about, however, is one where they're looking at letting more people from Big Pharma who have a clear conflict of interest because their jobs are with the pharmaceutical industry. They're trying to bring more of those people and saying they're the experts that know the most about it and should be the ones making the decision.
And that they can't find any other people that are equivalent in their expertise.
Yeah. Well, that's not exactly true, although there is truth to it. I mean, a lot of people, the people who are working on the studies themselves for Big Pharma should know the most about it.
Well,
but the problem is they're biased in a way where they're trying to protect the company. And so they'll do what they can to convince others, and they will also pass drugs that shouldn't be passed because they want to make sure that their company is able to make return on investment.
So what would be wrong with allowing them on the committee just for their opinions about things and then not allowing them to vote? That only the experts without the financial conflict of interest could vote.
Right. See, Nurse Vicky understands it. She's got it right. Maybe we should send you to the FDA as an ambassador of truth to try and work this through, because it's not complicated. It's very straightforward. When there's a conflict of interest, you can't trust what the outcome's going to be because people, their career is on the line. So the fact that there are 20 to 25% of people today, before these possible new things are changed, who are making decisions with a vote on these committees is outrageous.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies we know gives and donates a lot of money to Congress.
Well, a couple of years ago, before the election, they gave away $500 million in that election year.
That's almost $1 million per congressperson just from pharmaceutical companies. You know that that's going to affect the way that they vote.
Well, either that or they're not going to get any more millions of dollars from them. So that they've got their own conflicts of interest. And that's how this, unfortunately, that's how this country is run today. And so we have to bite the bullet. We have to do what's right. We have to make sure that we protect the safety of the country. The FDA should be protecting the citizens of the country. Congress should be ensuring that FDA has the power it needs to be able to make that regulation. And what's happened is we now have the FDA basically owned by Big Pharma to the tune of about a third of the FDA's funding, because that's where when they fast track a drug, it means that they take a drug, they bring it to market sooner than they normally do. And that's a big advantage for the pharmaceutical company, because that gets their drug out in the market sooner and they start making sales sooner. That's simple business.
And it makes more jobs.
It does a lot of good things, but it also creates some problems. You don't do as much research. You don't have the outcome studies you'd like to have. And it makes for them paying large sums of money that the FDA then depends on in order to do its job. So you're looking at 1/3 of its income coming from Big Pharma. That's like putting the fox in the chicken coop to protect the hens. There's something wrong with that story.
So we need to, I don't know, what can we do to help them to not pass this law?
Well, write your congressman, smile. Yeah, that's not going to do you a whole lot of good. It never does. But I think that's the kind of thing. We need a grassroots democracy that's going to start changing the way this country operates. We have to take our power back. And if we don't take our power back, this kind of thing is going to escalate. We now have corporations that are considered to be individual people with rights. There's something wrong with that picture.
Well, you know, too, I don't know what year it was, 2009, I think, when the Vioxx scandal. What year was that?
That's 2004.
2004. Well, that was when they tightened up on some of these conflict of interest rules.
A little.
But now they want to loosen them up.
Listen, they didn't really do much, Vicki. Even back at that time when Vioxx was taken off the market, they almost got it put back on the market by increasing the number of votes that came from a committee that was evaluating it, that came from where? Big Pharma. And the same thing happened with Celebrex, except those votes were already there the first time. And with the 10 votes out of 30 that there were there, every one of those people in Big Pharma voted to keep the drug on the market. And so today, that drug is still there. So you can still use Celebrex, and, you know, don't worry about the heart attacks, the strokes, about the kidney failure, the GI perforations and bleeds. Don't worry about those things. I mean, that's what they're leaving you to. So we have to depend on a new kind of medicine where we have more responsibility, more grassroots participation. We can't obviously trust Congress. They don't do the job they're supposed to do. They promise to, but as soon as they get to Washington, D.C., something happens to them.
Well, one thing is, though, that they are required to say what the toxic effects are. So we need to pay more attention to that because, you know, we listen to these direct-to-consumer ads and we don't pay attention to them.
Well, they're all over the place. It's not just about that. So to tie this thing up, what we need to do is we need to start taking more responsibility for our health care. We need a system that doesn't depend on drugs and technologies. We need more wellness and prevention and nutrition and natural therapies. We know we can't trust Congress. We know we can't trust the FDA. We know we can't trust the insurance industry or the research industry or Big Pharma. We've got problems. We better deal with them soon.